Fresh insights on timely topics in high-quality secondary and post-secondary education. That is just one of the many taglines that is being associated with CareerTech Vision 2022. This is the premier CTE show and conference in the world, or certainly in the United States. It's taking place here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We've been here all week talking to fascinating people with the Association for Career and Technical Education, learning all kinds of great things. Believe it or not, this is our last episode of this conference. So we are live streaming on YouTube. My name is Matt Kirkner, your host for this episode and every single episode of the Tech Ed Podcast. It is great to have you with us, and we are finishing off with just a really phenomenal guest, somebody who has had an amazing career, both in career technical education and in service to this great organization, ACTE. We are going to talk all about that with Brian Law. Brian's day job is a school counselor and CTAE director with Brooks County High School, and he is also serving as ACTE's past president. We are going to talk about both, but Brian, first, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you, and you've had such an amazing background and amazing experience as a school counselor at all these different levels, right? So elementary school, middle school, high school, working with this wide array of students. From all your experience working at the state K-12 education level, what would you say that we're doing right in 2022 to help prepare students for college and career readiness?
I think starting early in the elementary level, which we are really targeting that to start early, introducing them to career development, and then moving into middle school, a little bit more exploration, doing some aptitude tests, personality tests, and to see what their interests really are. But most importantly, when I began school counseling in 1996, this is my 30th year in education, but
Fantastic.
I taught for 3 years.
Yeah, great.
The push then was character education. And now I think character education is work-ready skills.
Yep.
So I think the more in education that we can push work-ready skills, the better off we'll be and the better prepared our students will be for the workforce.
Absolutely. We really have seen an evolution, and kind of judging from those dates you just threw out. You and I are about the same age. I think I'm actually a little bit older than you are, but not by too much. And just amazing changes in the world of education over the course of that 30-plus years, right? What are some of the ways that you think career technical education have changed in this incredible career that you've had?
Well, we've moved away from the old vocational education.
Right.
Even when I was in high school, I mean, it's so different. And I've been at the high school level now for 18 years. And over 18 years, it's changed. The innovations that we have, I mean, even here at CareerTech Vision, if you walk around this exhibit hall, there are just amazing innovations that are there for teachers,
right?
To help teaching and learning. And our students are so technology driven now.
They are.
And you've got to catch their attention.
Right.
You can't teach from a textbook anymore.
Yeah.
You've got to have the hands-on activities. So I think that's, this is not my quote, but I truly believe in this. For example, construction is no longer your daddy's wood shop.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it is so much more. All the technology involved.
Absolutely. You know, as our listeners know, I spent the majority of my career up until about 6 or 7 years ago in the world of manufacturing, and I would go to these meetings with like our local high school if they were raising money for something they were doing in their CTE program, or maybe they were reaching out to industry to build those connections. And I still remember the guy. He used to come and he said, we just need to teach more shop class. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Shop class? I mean, maybe some of those skills that we learned in shop class are important, but technical education is really, really evolved. And I know we'll talk a little bit later about some of the things that you've seen here at Career Tech Expo, but just looking around this conference and seeing the robots across from us, the smart sensors, trainers, all the augmented reality, virtual reality experiences that we have for our students. It really is an exciting time for us to be involved in the world of CTE. I'm sure that your district and your high school is absolutely no exception. So I'd be interested in learning a little bit more, Brian, about the mission and vision of the CTE program at Brooks County High School and how you're preparing students to be college and career ready there.
Okay, well, our school district, we have a motto that is, we pledge to inspire and educate all students. So we want to make sure that we do educate all students, that all students have options, and every student doesn't fit the same mold.
For sure.
So, and in the CTAE program, which in Georgia it's CTAE CareerTech Ag Education, we're the only state in the nation that has ag as a part of it.
I saw that in your title,
yeah.
and I was going to ask what that was, right?
The rest of the nation, it's CareerTech Ed, CTE, but in Georgia we're CTAE.
Got it.
Because agriculture is Georgia's #1 industry.
For sure.
So that was changed in about 2011. But within my program, which I serve elementary, middle, and high, and you may wonder what career tech's in elementary, but Georgia piloted a program a couple of years ago, and we now teach, it's an option for school districts to teach ag education in the elementary level.
No way, really?
And it has been amazing. My school district, we have 2 elementary schools, and we teach that there. So we're starting early.
What grades in elementary?
Elementary for us is K through 5.
Okay.
And we have ag teachers in both of my schools, and I think it started with 21 pilot schools about 3 years ago. My district was a pilot school. But starting early with those skills, and our motto that we use in Brooks County at the high school is today's students, tomorrow's workforce.
Okay.
So each one of my teachers, they work hard to try to instill those work-ready skills, and I think that's the most important. As far as preparing the students, again, like I mentioned earlier, we do aptitude tests, personality tests, interest tests, and that helps to drive them into choosing their pathway, and they can always change the pathway. You know, when I was in 8th grade, I always thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I went to the eye doctor one time and thought, maybe I want to be an eye doctor. I don't know why.
Right.
But, you know, that was just a thought, but the more I researched it, I really didn't.
Right,
So,
yep.
So you know, you really got to start doing those interest inventories with students.
Absolutely, and I think that's so important as I just reflect back on how so many people choose their careers as well. My neighbor's an engineer, I want to be an engineer. My dad's an accountant, I guess I'm supposed to be an accountant. And one of the things that I realized probably a little bit later in life than I should have is that, you know, how we're wired as an individual, and so much of that, you know, you look at some of the personality testing that you reference, and a lot of that science will tell us that a lot of who we are and how we think about the world and what our interests are and what we're attracted to and so on, a lot of that is hardwired in us by about, you know, somewhere between 7 and 11 years old in a lot of cases. And then we're trying to take somebody who's, you know, 18 years old and saying, well, you need to go in this. Well, no, I mean, how are they wired? What are their interests? You know, there's somebody that has a really strong motor and needs to move through life at 120 miles an hour, which was always my problem when I was in middle school and high school, getting into trouble for one thing or another just because, you know, things weren't moving fast enough. You wanted a little bit more sense of urgency around you. And then you get into like the workforce and you realize, look, a lot of those things that I used to get scolded for when I was in middle school and high school actually served me pretty well when I got to the workforce. So I love the way that you're looking at that at Brooks County High School and in the district, understanding all the way back in elementary school and teaching things like agriculture and getting students interested in those types of pathways. Really, really interesting work that you're doing there. So as we think about now taking these students, we do our interest inventory, we do our personality tests, we understand maybe what some of their aptitudes or their interests are, and now we're kind of starting to mold them, not pigeonhole them per se, but just mold them toward a career pathway that might be interesting to them. What are some of the unique ways that you're doing that?
Well, I always tell students, and you just alluded to this, don't choose your pathway because of what your friend chose.
Right.
Because that might not be your interest. So, you know, we try to stress that to kids because they'll say, what are you picking? And I'm going to choose that same pathway. Right. The other thing that we do is we try to provide some hands-on outside like apprenticeships for them. Sure. We have work-based learning in Georgia, which is really big, and most of the states have that. But giving them, for example, my district, we collaborate with PCOM, which is the Pennsylvania College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Okay, interesting.
And their doctoral medical students come out and teach our students as a part of a program about all of the medical aspects, not just becoming a doctor, but just everything that does medical. And we get to go to their college, and when the kids go, it is so amazing to see their faces and see that hands-on and see what really goes on in that area of healthcare science.
Right.
And I also tell kids, don't hone into one area or one particular career in a pathway. Consider all of them.
Right.
If you know you want to do healthcare in medicine, there's an array of healthcare things out there. And if I could tell a personal story, that this is
we love personal stories.
This is one of my favorite stories. I was a school counselor in another school district about 17 years ago, I reckon it's been. And I had this student come in who was a very, very bright student, had top scores and everything. Definitely was, you know, planning college. Parents were educated, and you know, college was real important to them. And he could have gone anywhere, literally. He was that smart.
Wow. But
he came into my office to register for classes, and he said he had one spot left in his schedule, and I said, and we'll call him Jim, but I always tell the story, and he knows I tell the story. We'll just call him Jim. So Jim, what are you interested in doing? Well, I need to get another AP class. I need AP biology. And I said, well, you're just a freshman.
Right.
What career do you want? Oh, I'm going to be a brain surgeon. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a choice, and you've already got your mindset. Tell me why you want to be a brain surgeon. Well, it's a lot of math and science, and I plan to go to Georgia Tech to start off with and transfer. You had all plans laid out.
As a freshman in high school.
Exactly.
Yep.
And some of them do. And I said, well, I really need you to take a pathway course in CTAE. I need you to get a pathway, and you've telling me you're interested in healthcare, so I need you to take Introduction to Healthcare Science.
Sure.
No, Mr. Law. I have got to have an AP class. I need to start working on my college credits now in AP biology. Biology's got something to do with medical. Let's do that. And I really think you need to take this. Well, fortunately for me, there was no arguing with a teenager.
Right.
But it worked out that he couldn't take the other class.
Okay, that's what I did. By
so
default.
By default, he got into Introduction to Healthcare Science. And he was in the class. A couple of months later, the school did a blood drive. And they helped with that. The healthcare science students kind of hands-on.
Right.
I heard a call to the area where they were doing the blood drive. It says, I need the nurse here. And I thought, okay, which kid is giving blood and passed out because they didn't have enough sugar in their blood or whatever, And I, being nosy, went down there, and he had passed out.
Oh, no.
He wasn't giving blood.
No,
but when he saw blood,
Yep.
he hit the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going to be a brain surgeon, Jim, you can't, if you can't do blood, you can't do that.
Right, exactly.
So that experience helped him to change his pathway.
Right.
And had he not taken that CTAE course and taken all the other courses, he wouldn't have had that hands-on experience. And he could have gone all the way through high school and had the pathway in healthcare, and he could have done it.
Sure.
I mean, math
Smart
and
enough
science,
to do it.
smart enough, but couldn't do blood. So we got to give those hands-on experiences.
That's a great example. What's Jim doing now, if I can ask?
He actually did go to Georgia Tech.
Did he?
And he went into engineering.
Fantastic.
And got a degree. Is real happy now, making more money than he probably would have made.
Didn't have to do all that.
Yeah.
Go through residency and the whole become that specialist and then have that pile of debt, right? That once you get through med school, and not that there's anything wrong with that. Thank goodness for people who take that path. But if it's not for you, then better to figure it out when you're a freshman than.
But if you can't stand blood, you can't be a surgeon.
Yep, exactly right.
And it's
no truer words have ever been said.
That's right. So that experience. So he did change in high school the pathway to an engineering pathway, and that's what he did. He's been successful. So I just love that story because it's an example of having students get that hands-on approach. And that's what we do in Brooks County Schools with the PCOM and any of our other outreaches that we do to our community workforce. And they're willing. We take kids to a local ACE place that makes, manufacturing.
Okay.
And let them see. And they're even now reaching out to hire our students.
Sure.
So it's great. The kids go and they get interested because the innovation and the technology is great.
Love it.
And it turns them on quickly.
Getting those experiences for so many different reasons, right? Picking the right career path and knowing what path might not be right for you. In Jim's case, very, very valuable. So all of those experiences influencing young people's career pathways and what they're going to do in the future. The other side of the whole experience around CTE is, half of the model is, maybe not even half, but the model is the student themselves, and then the other one is influencing the parent. And everybody's parent has a certain, I know I did, my kids are now in their 20s, but you have a certain idea of what you'd like them to do, what you think they should do, and what have you, and it does take a degree of discipline to recognize that they've got to figure that out in some ways on their own, and you have to support them through that. But what are some of the things that you're doing to influence the way that parents are thinking about their children's career pathways and choices?
Well, we have to change the mindset that career technical education is not it's not rigor, it's not STEM, it is STEM.
Right.
It is, college is not for everybody, but we have to show all those opportunities. And I always tell kids, don't choose your career because of your parents, just like your friends.
Right.
Because you're the one that's got to do this career.
Right. Yeah. They're off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah. Both my parents were products of career technical education. Of course, back then it was vocational education.
Sure.
My dad was in construction. My mom worked in the textile industry.
Fantastic.
And my dad always wanted me to go into construction. And I don't know the difference between a wrench and it's like, Dad, really, I can't.
Right. There's courses at the high school for that, by the way.
There are courses for that, and they're even more technical
Right.
now. I mean, when I go in
For
to observe my teacher, it's like amazing some of the stuff that they've got that they do. But that wasn't what I was interested in.
Right.
And I would have had a miserable career. I knew I wanted to be in education. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And once I was successful, my dad was proud of me.
Right.
But you've got to expose parents to those other options. And one thing that I do is we do a lot. It's marketing, marketing, marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a video that advertises all of the pathways that we offer. We play that. It's out, you know, on our website that parents can look at. As parents enter the building, if we're having a parent event, I have this huge TV that shows pictures of career technical students doing stuff in the classroom or on a field trip or something, and it shows that information. So you have to expose it, and you got to do it positively. I mean, you don't want every parent wants their kid to be successful, happy, and pay their own bills.
Yep, exactly. Yep. The way I put it is that I wanted two things for my kids. The number one thing was to find a career that they found rewarding and that could support the lifestyle that they wanted. And the second one is you're not coming home and living on the couch or in the basement. And I joke that I think it was actually in reverse order. Number one, you're not coming home and living in the basement, and number two, you got to find a rewarding career. Fortunately, in my case, at least one of our kids is well on his way, and the other one will be, we think, in the next year or two. So we at least figured that out, right? I don't know that I did everything right, but we figured that out. But it was really important to us to expose those kids to as many different pathways and not to start with any preconceived notion, either in terms of careers or, for that matter, their educational path, whether it was direct to workforce, community technical college, university, military. We expose them to all those things and get them excited about it. I know one of the things I'm excited to learn a little bit about you, Brian, and for our audience, I think I mentioned it in the intro, that you're the first past president of the Association for Career Technical Education, and I want to talk a little bit about your career as president. So we had Scott Stone on yesterday. Had a really nice conversation with Scott. Tell us about that 1 year that you spent as president that would have wrapped up last July. What are you most proud of, or what's one of those significant things you feel like you accomplished?
Well, my president-elect year, this is the third year. The president-elect year, which was COVID year.
Right.
So, you know, the conference was virtual, and, you know, we attended all the virtual meetings and stuff, and I'm just not a virtual person because I think human connection matters, and that's me, and that's why we have so many people here, you know.
Right.
But as my presidential year, we were coming out of COVID, and I think I'm most proud of last year's conference. We had 3,000 people in New Orleans.
I was there, yeah.
Yes, and we had 1,000 people online.
Right.
So ACTE offered the hybrid model. We had something for everybody. If you were not ready to get out, it's okay because we have the virtual model. But I kept telling the board and staff, if we open up in person, they'll come.
Right.
And they did.
They did.
That's 3,000 in person, another 1,000. That's 4,000. Now we have 6,000 this year.
Right.
And we are in Vegas.
Yeah,
but you
absolutely.
know, the people together is the big thing. And ACTE also added another division. We haven't added a division in years. We had a work-based learning.
Okay.
Which that is that apprenticeship, that working with, you know, with businesses and industry, going and putting our students to work and getting those skills hands-on in the workforce. And that's the thing that I'm very proud that we were able to do, is add another division. Our membership continues to grow. We're at over 25,000 members.
Right.
And other associations can't say that.
Right, for sure.
And so I'm thankful that ACTE continued to provide professional learning and support and advocacy on the Hill to show the importance of CTE.
Yep, all those things are so very important, the support, the advocacy at the federal level, and fortunately, at least at this point in time, we're seeing unprecedented amounts of capital and support coming in financially for career technical education, so it's a great time to be doing that type of work. It's also a great time to be here at the CareerTech Expo, walking around and looking at all the different technologies on offer from more than 200 different exhibitors. Tech Ed Podcast Studio included on that and in that number. As you've walked around the show floor, as you've attended some of the sessions, Brian, what's one of the more interesting things that you've tripped over here at CareerTech Vision?
Elvis.
Yeah,
I actually saw Elvis today.
Did you really?
Yes, he is. He's over at one of the exhibits. No, honestly. I've just been amazed at the innovations and the technology. You mentioned the robots earlier.
Right.
You know, and just that is just amazing that we have to keep up with those innovations, and we got to provide the professional learning for our teachers, and they're here. You know, they're letting us know that they need that, and the sessions are full. The rooms are at capacity.
Right.
And you know, who would have thought 6,000 people, the largest number in 20 years for ACTE. So just seeing the people here, and all the things that are offered from these vendors and these sponsors, they're just it lets us know that they're here to support us, and in turn we're supporting our students and the workforce.
Absolutely.
Because one of the things that I always say is our students deserve high quality CTE, And our business and industry, they're depending on us.
Right.
There are jobs everywhere, and we've got to fill those jobs, and we got to get ready for those jobs and use these innovations that are here today.
Absolutely, using these innovations to create the future worker and the future workforce, the future of work, all really, really important. As you were going through that answer and starting with Elvis and ending up with the robotics and technology, I have to admit, and I'll pass on the dad joke, but there's a like nothing but a hound dog connection to like the robotic dogs that we've seen running around here at the CareerTech Expo this week. So and I love Elvis as well. That was one of my closet interests. Was when I was growing up was watching Elvis movies. I think I've seen probably just about every Elvis movie. So and I've seen Elvis a couple times here, but a lot of other really cool things at CareerTech Expo and at CareerTech Vision. Just a really, really great week, and appreciate you joining us, Brian. I do have one last question for you before we put the wraps on our entire session. So you get the very last question of the entire show here. Because we'll be signing off in just a moment. But if you, and I know you're going to have a great answer to this question with all your work with high school students, but if you had one piece of advice for a high school sophomore, Brian Law, as they're thinking about their future, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, as I said earlier, don't choose your pathway because of what your friends are choosing, and don't choose it, based on what your parents are telling you that you need to do.
Yep.
Explore, consider your interests, and do your research and start planning early and do what's right for you, because you're going to have to go to work for to retirement, and you want to be happy going to work.
Absolutely.
And so don't listen to somebody telling you what you have to do, because the choice is yours.
Absolutely.
And you've got options, and we provide that help to you to help you discover what you need.
Right.
As a school counselor, we never tell students this is what you need to do. We let them explore.
Absolutely.
So again, starting early in elementary school with work-ready skills and exposing them to careers, and middle school the continued exploration to help them prepare for the pathway at the high school.
Absolutely. As I think about, it was my sophomore year of high school actually when I remember having the realization of, I shouldn't be trying to do better in school for my parents, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
that was always the thing, is like, well, you don't want to bring home a bad report card. You don't want to be in trouble. You want your parents to be proud. And the day that I realized, look, I'm doing this for myself and my future. And yeah, you want your parents to be proud of you, but that's not the main driver. And so you really have to think about what's important to you as an individual, even as a high school sophomore. And to your point, going further back into middle school for that matter, as we're thinking about the future and creating a future that we are proud of as an individual, proud of as a student, and being on that right pathway. So really, really good conversation, Brian, with you. Want to thank you for your service and your leadership with ACTE. Thank you for spending a little time with us here on the Tech Ed Podcast. This is our very last interview, and we are wrapping it up. Thanks so much for being with us.